All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking at this book that's been making the rounds,
Okay.
The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've got a couple of really interesting excerpts here. One's a review,
Okay.
and then the other's like a debate about the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to kind of get into, what people are saying, both good and bad, and
Yeah.
see if there's anything worthwhile in there.
Yeah. Is it hype? Is it helpful?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, what is it about this book? What's the big idea?
Well, the thing about the 5 a.m. club is it's not really just about, waking up at 5. It's about this very particular way that they want you to structure that first hour.
Yeah.
And Sharma calls it the 20-20-20 formula.
Okay, so 20 minutes of exercise,
Yeah.
20 minutes of reflection,
Uh-huh.
and 20 minutes of learning.
Exactly.
So it's almost like you're getting a jump start on the day.
Yeah.
And using that time for personal growth as opposed to just, I don't know, scrolling through your phone or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I've tried the whole early morning thing before, thinking, I was going to magically become super productive. And I think the snooze button was my biggest enemy there.
Mm-hmm.
But I like this idea of a structured routine. I think that part is interesting.
Yeah, well, I think the 20-20-20 formula is actually really smart in the sense that, it's targeting that time of day where we're actually the most cognitively, sharp. Studies have shown that, right when you wake up, willpower is at its peak. And so that's why, getting that exercise done first thing, really smart because you're more likely to stick with it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and you get that endorphin rush right away, which kind of sets you up for a good day. And then the reflection and learning while your mind is fresh is super valuable, too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like instead of just, scrambling to get ready in the morning,
Right.
you're actually setting yourself up for success intentionally.
Exactly. It's about taking control before the day takes control of you. And I think this is where some of the criticism comes in. This idea of waking up at 5 assumes a certain amount of control over your schedule that a lot of people just don't have.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it. Even just trying to adjust your sleep schedule is hard enough.
totally.
And like you said, not everybody has the flexibility to just say, okay, I'm waking up at 5.
Right.
You think about shift workers,
Yeah.
parents of young kids,
Yeah,
people with certain health issues.
absolutely.
There's a lot of folks who just
Yeah,
don't have control over when their day starts.
exactly. And that's where that whole privilege argument comes in. The book doesn't really acknowledge those limitations.
Right.
Now, another big concept that Sharma introduces is the victory hour. And this is a little bit different than just checking things off your to-do list.
Right.
It's more about aligning your actions with your bigger goals. What's your long-term vision, your values?
So it's not just about being busy. It's about being intentional.
Exactly.
There's a story in the book that I thought was so cool about this woman who used her 5 a.m. time to write a novel. It was always a dream of hers. But she never felt like she had the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year later, she actually had a published book. It's pretty inspiring, right?
Yeah, it is. It speaks to that power of just consistent, focused effort over time. But I think one critique, and this is common with a lot of self-help books, is that it might be a bit too simplistic. What works for one person doesn't necessarily work for everyone.
Right.
Every individual is different. You've got your circumstances, your personality, even your chronotype. Are you a morning person or a night owl? All these things play a role.
So it sounds like while the structure and the intentionality are good things to keep in mind,
Yeah.
just blindly following a formula might not be the answer.
Exactly. It's about taking those core principles like the routine and the focused action,
Yeah.
and then figuring out how to adapt them to your own life.
So for our listeners out there, if you ever tried a morning routine, we want to hear from you. What worked? What totally flopped? And, regardless of what time you actually get up, what are some things you can do to really make the most of that first hour and set yourself up for a good day?
I think that's a great question and something to think about, even beyond the book. It's okay, regardless of when you wake up, how can you really maximize that first hour you have?
That's such a good point.
Before the world kind of gets a hold of you.
Yeah, because everybody has that first hour, whether it's 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a really interesting deep dive.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next time.